Yeah, this is Mike Anderson with Anderson's Pretty Water Farm, and today we're going to talk about candy boards, sugar cake, sugar bricks, sugar pies, and just figure out what you want to do, and I'll show you what I've been through and over the years and have worked through for my bees to let me know what I like to do. So I have brought it down to sugar pies. That's what I prefer to do, and the reason why is I started out with this one right here years ago, and it took 16 pounds of sugar, and you just wired this half-inch screen on there, or nailed it on there, and filled it up with sugar, and left little holes here so the bees could get up through and everything, and that was fine. But what would happen is I would, at the end of the year, I would have lots of sugar left, and it was hard to get it out of this screen. And then I had to store it and put it in 5-gallon buckets and stuff, and it was just too much trouble. And so after that, I thought, well, I'll reduce it down. And so I went to this, to where it's recessed in. I didn't like the wire going around here, and then you set it on top of your hive and you had gaps and stuff. I just didn't like it, and so I recessed that wire in, and that was all good, and I liked that. And it would, this here would take about 10 pounds of sugar, and that was better. But I still had sugar left over in most of my hives. And I done that, and even for my little newts, I made them for them too, you know. And I don't remember how much this would hold. It seemed like it was about 5 or 6 pounds of sugar, which was too much for them too. And then, so then I started thinking about pies and these little aluminum pie pans. And I also did the sugar boards, like this one right here. And this led me to that because I just, I would pack it with, I put wax foil underneath here, and I would pack it full of sugar, water, and cake, candy, whatever you want to call it. And then I'd make it different sizes in here, and but that was messy. Even with the wax paper under it, the cakes would break. It didn't have nothing reinforcing it, and it was just kind of messy. And so I didn't really care for that either. And so that led me to the pie pans. And these here are 11-inch pie pans, and they're 1.25 inches. Well, I've got on my little hives out there, I've got an expansion bar that goes around, and it's either 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches. I have both sizes out there, but I prefer the 1.25 inches. And then this pan will fit right in there just like that, and it'll be below the level, and plus you have a little more of a drop here because I just set it right on top of my frames just like that, and it works real well. It's little cats me out. And so I was going to show you how I make my sugar water, or my sugar candy. And what I do is I use 10-pound bags, and I really got a deal on this sugar here. I was at Atwood's, our local farm and ranch store, and they sell farm equipment, feed, clothing, groceries. They just sell everything. Anyway, they was doing a closeout on this sugar, and it was half price, and they had a shopping cart basket full of it there when you walked in the door. And So I bought the majority of it. I didn't kind of feel like a hog and all, but I bought a couple £100 and I think it cost me like 30 cents a pound. So I just take a 10-pound bag and I just dump it in my bowl. And a 10-pound bag will make about 3 of those. And here's one already done like that. And so I'll take this right here and I'll take 2 cups of water. And the reason I don't care how much water it's got in it, and a little cap full of white vinegar for mold, and but I'll take 2 cups of water, and I normally get it out of the tap when it's warm or hot, and I'll pour the majority of that in there, and I'll leave a tad bit in there, get the later part of it, and I'll just stir this up. And I don't care how it just seems like when you're stirring all this up, if you use just a little bit of water, it's a lot harder. So since we're putting it in containers, it can be a little more moist, and it's going to dry out anyway when it sets for a certain amount of time. So I'm going to stir this up real good and get some of it in there good, and then I'll pour some more and pour the rest of it in there. Get it going like that. Get it stirred up real good. And these pie pans, they seem to not near as nasty as all the other stuff. Just easier to handle, easier to store. It's just a whole lot better. And the majority of the beehives out there is not going to eat that much sugar. And so, like we're in Oklahoma here, and fairly mild winters, and so, however, this year we had an extreme polar vortex, they call it, come down in February and went minus 15 degrees here for like a week or two, and the coldest that in my 60-some years I've ever seen, and so. We lost about a third of our hives in that polar vortex, and then for the second year in a row we had a cold late freeze, and it was a cold spring, and then we had a late freeze on top of that, which killed all the blooms and everything, and so the bees just had a terrible year. And then later on in the summer we had a drought. And so we had a pretty good sized dearth. And so some of my young hives I've been feeding for most of the late summer. And so they've really had to struggle this year around here. And so, but anyway, I've got the sugar here. So what I do is I just take put this in here like so. And this size of pie pan, you'll get 3 of them out of this 10 pounds. And I make a little curve right here. Let me show you what I got here. I make a little indentation right in there. And I do that because that's where I'm going to have my door for the bees, because on these pie pans it's sloped up like that. So I just cut out right in here and drop that down so they have a little entry and a little path going up to get in here with no trouble. Just like that. This has been the best way for me, for my beehives. I've got 27 hives this year. And since we've had a terrible year with Mother Nature, I'm thinking that they're going to need a lot. So, the last time I checked the bees, they were pretty light. So, the lightest I've seen in many years. So, I know they're having a hard time this year. But this has been the best method for us. Here. And it's the easiest for me, I realized. I'm always looking for easy. But that's it right there. Just make you a little doorway there where they can ramp. And they will tear into this because they're hungry. If they're not hungry, they won't eat so much of it. But if they prefer their honey. But if they're hungry, they will jump onto this. And I have to, but here in Oklahoma, you know, we have some pretty nice days in winter. And so, you know, it don't hurt for me to go out there in December, January, you know, as long as it's 50 degrees or so and sunny, and not a whole lot of wind. That's a good day for me to go out and check my bees. And we have quite a few of those days. And so that's how I'll make some of these up. And I can just put these in the freezer, store them, whatever. And then when I need them, pull them out and take them out there to them. But normally I'll just, when I think I'm going to do my bees, I will, they're so easy to do. I store my honey, my sugar. And then if I know I'm going to check the bees, I might make up 6 or 8 of them and take them with me on when I'm doing the bees. And if one of them's getting low, I'll just switch it out. Or maybe I'll break one in half, you know, kind of pull it up, break it in half, and give, you know, little pieces of it to them. So it's just whatever the situation curtails there. Anyway, let me show you this. And we take this like this and make a little door. I just make a little slope in there like that and cut this out like that. And then I'll pop that down just like that right there. And they'll just come trotting in through there and get in there, and there'll just be a big mess of them in there eating it when they're hungry. And another thing I want to talk about is screens. You know, I've noticed I was big on screens, and when I first started, I went out and bought me a 50-foot row of number 8 screen. And everything that I built, I put screen on it. And so I built a whole bunch of these right here, and screen bottom bulbs with a little tray. And I built a slew of these and put them on my hives. And I've come to realize over the years that these things, I think, are just about more trouble than what they're worth. I have Russian bees, and they clean themselves pretty good, and so I kept finding myself pulling these trays out and finding little moth larvae in here. And what I would also do is in the wintertime, I would put cloth or something back here to block it to where they would stay warmer in the winter. And what I think a lot of this screen does is it's a safe harbor for moths and small hive beetles. And they just flourish under there, and the bees can't get to them. And then when they're flourishing under there, they come up when the bees ain't looking, and they try to make a foothold. So the bees is always having to battle these little larvae. And so I think it's hard on the hive. And so I've been getting away from these screen bottom boards for that reason. And I know they're good for the varroa mites coming down, falling through and all that, but I've with my Russian bees, and I do brood breaks. Every year I'll make sure that all my hives go through a brood break. And then, like right now, we're in the middle of November, the hives, the brood is down to a small amount. If you go out and check your hives right now, you probably won't find a lot of brood in there. So right now is a good time for oxalic acid treatment, and that's what I do at this time. And I think with my bees that I'm going to get away from the screen, because I even put on my last horizontal hive that I made a video on earlier, I put screen on the bottom of it with drawers and all that, and I'm kind of getting away from that because it's a safe harbor for them moths and small hive beetles. And so I've been removing this and going back to my solid bottoms, and my hives seem to prefer that. And you know, you talk about the air and cooling the bees and stuff, and I've never, the bees, they can handle that heat. It's that cold that they can't handle. And so I'm going back to them solid bottoms for that reason, because I think they will do better in the winter due to the cold, and won't have that screen to deal with, and it won't be a safe harbor for the wax moths. And so I'll let you know in a year or two how it fares, and if my hives are doing better or worse. But I believe in them brood breaks, getting that hive queenless for a little bit, and letting the brood go down, and that makes a big difference, and doing them oxalic acid treatments. And I think for my bees, that's been what's been working for us. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, and the sugar pies. And this is by far the best method for us here on Anderson's Pretty Water Farm. And it works well, and all my little bees is going to get them that need it. There might be one or two hives out there that's got enough stores for this winter, but it's been real tough, and they might have been robbing from some of my other hives to get what they got. I don't know. But there's only a few hives out there that, and chances are by spring I might be feeding some of them if we have a hard winter. But I wanted to let you know about this and about my screen bottom boards. And the sugar water here, we're just getting down to, you know, it's mid-November, so I'm doing away with this and getting ready to go to the pies. And hope you've enjoyed the video, and get back with us. Latest little update, we had I installed 2 Langstroth horizontals this year, and they just went bonkers with creating brood. I also made a 2-frame horizontal observation hive, and I placed it inside my shop, and I drilled a hole through the wall and stuck the entry outside. And out of that 2-frame deal, I probably made 5 hives out of that. And what I would do is I'd go out and find me a frame of young eggs, just a couple of days old or so, and put it in one of those, in that 2-frame hive. And then I would take me a wire frame and stick it in there with it, and then I'd put me a jar of sugar water on top to supplement them. And I have 2 pieces of plexiglass, one on each side, and that makes it to where you could observe on each side of it. And I'd lay a little blanket over the top of it so it'd keep it dark in there, but they'd have to put up with my noise working in the shop. It didn't seem to bother them too much. And so we went through like 5 cycles, and they would create a queen cell and create their queen, and we'd watch it come out of the little egg cell, and then it'd go out, and you could just hear the roar, things getting excited inside that hive as things were happening with that queen. So it's a lot of just excitement in there whenever the queen hatches and she goes out and she comes back, and she starts laying, and then things start calming down, the noise reduces. And so it was quite a joy this year with that little observation frame. And so anyway, that's the end of our deal, and I should have brought a frame deal up. And I'll tell you what, let me break off on this, and I'll go get one of those. I should have brought one up, and I'll show you what I did. Okay, now I went down to the shop and pulled it out of the wall here, and this is what I had. I made this last year. I was wanting to watch my bees in action, so I made this deal here. And what this does is this comes up right here, like that, and this goes through the wall. And let's see, where's my frames at? But what I do is, here's a wired frame. I mount this little board here so they can build off of it. And it's got three wires across there. I think about 14 gauge wire I put on there. And then here's just a blank deal here that I'll show you. But this here, I will go out one of my hives and find one that has got a comb all over it and full, and it's got some brood in it, a good frame of brood with young eggs, with a little honey up in here. Just a good brood with that the queen is currently on or just left from there. And So I will put that in there like this right here. And then I will just get me an empty frame like this and slide it in here just like that. And that way I can watch them because I want to be able to see them guys, girls. And so with this empty frame I can watch on both sides. Now what they will do, I find interesting, is that when they start making their queen cells, normally they will create, especially if it's on this side, they will build their honeycomb right over it. So like they're wanting to hide that from me. So, and then I will run this on there like that. And I got a jar of sugar water, and I'll put in there like that. And that's stuck in the wall like that. Now in the back here, I put a hole here. And what that's for is ventilation, of course. But also, when I do open this up and I change out my bees or whatever I'm doing in there, then when I close it, they need a way back in. So I put this back here and I just open that up and I darken everything or open up the back door to where they can fly out and go around to the front. Or the ones that don't have that kind of sense, they can come back and get back in here and get back in their hive so they're not locked out. And so it just works great. And you can see on both sides of it, and what I do is I put a little blanket over them, a little towel, and that way they do well. And the last one that I done, I took this out and I put a regular 5-frame nuke. I made me a 5-frame nuke with this in here, and since it was so late in the season, I decided to just leave them in the shop. And so I made a 5-frame nuke with another deep on top of it, and then I got a little super on top of it where I got sugar water in it now. And so whenever they quit drinking that sugar water, well then I'll also make these with them little smaller pies about this big around. And I'll set one of those on my in the nuke for them. But I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with this year, and like I said, I probably made at least 5 hives, and I might have made 6. But I was just rotating them out of there. And what I would do is I'd wait until the queen came back and she started laying eggs and starting to get a brood, and then that's when I would transfer them out. And so it was just something to do, you know. Me, I'm retired, so I got lots of time, and I like to stay busy. So that was one way. That was something that kept my interest up throughout the summer, and so it was fun to do. And now I've made 2 more of these, and I'm going to have 3 of them there and just rotating them out, so they'll keep me a little busier. But they'll be at different stages throughout the deal. So it's something that, and it makes hives. And in case we have a bad winter or something, well, I can recover next year. But it's just a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed everything, and recap on the sugar pies, what I call them, and then my observation hive, and then screen bottom boards. You might want to reconsider if you're having trouble with moths and stuff. What I would recommend if you do want to operate with screen boards is definitely in the spring and summer, after the cold gets out, pull this thing out here, and that allows bees to be able to go in there real good, and it reduces protection for, you know, for them wax moths and stuff, and open it up to where, you know, it's just not as, makes it good for the wax moths. And because they sure, I don't, you know, you hear that the wax moths, whether the vultures, yeah, but if you make a great environment for them wax moths, they're going to just be under there waiting, and they produce a smell, you know, that I know the bees don't like. And so I try to make my environments for my bees as pristine as possible. And removing this bottom board here will improve that. And it'll open things up a little more. It'll make it to where bees can more readily go in there and maybe get rid of them larvae. And what happens is the honeycomb and stuff gets in here, and them larvae starts producing. And so it's make it as tough as you can for them wax moths. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a while since we made one, and hope to see you next time. And hope you have a great winter. I hope Mother Nature works well with us, and that we have a great spring and a great season next year. That's what I'm looking forward to. And that helps my garden as well, because I'm big on gardens too. So, all right, thank you very much.